We're talking alleged child criminals tonight. First up, a 12-year-old boy right here in Houston has been charged with aggravated assault with a stabbing that left a woman in critical condition this weekend, and she is still listed in critical condition. Video shows a 12-year-old and his 7-year-old brother in front of the victim's house. According to investigators, the 12-year-old walked inside of the woman's garage and stabbed her multiple times within seconds. What's missing is they also had an argument earlier, and the kids came back with gloves on. The 7-year-old will not be charged. Another case involves a trio of kids here in Houston. Boys ages 11, 12, and 16 have been arrested for robbing a bank. Allegedly, authorities say the boys walked into a Wells Fargo last week, passed a threatening note to the teller, and ran off with what they thought was actual real money, but it was fake money. The FBI put their photos on social media, dubbing them the Little Rascals. Parents of two of the kids came forward, along with a grandparent, and turned them in. Joining us to talk about it, Waller County Constable Herschel Smith and licensed professional counselor Dr. Ebony Blue. Glad to have you both here on The Factor. Constable, you called me about this today, and you say this is a topic we need to address. Not only are young people, children, out there allegedly committing crimes, but there's an absence of that parental structure, except for one grandmother who caught your attention this weekend with the alleged bank robbers.
Well, you know, we talk about all the things that's happening in the community, but when you see grandmas standing up and speaking out and then giving these kids up, you know, that says a whole lot right there.
And really quick, explain for the viewer who may not be following, the grandmother in the bank robbery case, right?
Right. Yeah, that's the bank robbery case. The grandma, you know, she called and made the call and let the authority know that who these children was, you know. And a few days later, the next day later, that's when the news go to her house, said, "Did you get the money?" And to the grandma, she said, "I don't know nothing about no money." You know, she was just doing what grandmas do. You know, that, you know, look out for the children and make sure that they stay out of trouble. So, and it takes good parents to stand up and to admit that their children did some things they shouldn't have done, you know, and to give them up and then to help them down the road.
Dr. Ebony Blue, when we take a look at these young children involved in a stabbing where they went home, got gloves, had the foresight to get gloves, and come back allegedly and stab this woman, then we have these little bitty kids trying to, according to investigators, rob a bank. What's going on with our children?
I believe it's scarcity. When someone doesn't have their basic needs met, even children, that includes food, shelter, clothing, safety, security, and access to health care, to mental health care, to resources, that when they're lacking those things, we increase the opportunity for them to express themselves in a way that could be violent, that could be reflective of abuse or neglect that they've been exposed to themselves. And because of their age range, their consequence and reward system isn't even fully developed. So these real world experiences aren't like a video game or something that they may be watching or witnessing on social media. This is real life and a real person that they've actually harmed, and her health now is in critical condition because of the consequences of this behavior.
And of course, you said as a result of some things that they may need, and Constable Smith and I talked about this earlier today. How does a child know to go and rob a bank? Is that part of social media, access to the internet, access to iPads, and not having a parent to say, hey, let's do, this is what's right, this is what's wrong? I'm looking for an answer.
I think it's a combination of all of those factors.
Idle mind is a devil workshop.
Yeah.
Kids are playing games, all these different games and stuff like that on social media and things of those magnitude. Take it to another level. They all of a sudden sit around and they just hype things together, and you know, being in the wrong company sometime, and somebody say, "Hey man, let's do this," and they all just agree to go and do it. And then you got the games that's out there, all the different games that's trying to persuade kids to be a part of it, and they feel important. you know, the hip hop stuff and all that stuff that is they are involved with. All that stuff it has a way of mentally messing with the head and causing them to do things they never done. You know, the old saying said, "The devil made me do it." You know, and you know, so it's something that happens to a child. You know, it happened to us. You know, when we grew up, but we had good parents around us during when I was coming up to help us and to guide us. And once they saw us start being with the wrong company, hey, come here. You know, you with the wrong person. You don't see that very seldom anymore.
And how important is the parenting component to this, Dr. Blue?
The parenting component is imperative. That supervision and guidance is very important, especially fail-safes when we talk about video games and television and what children are exposed to. But I feel like it's almost easier to scapegoat parenting for what's happening and not look at the environment or what they're being exposed to as far as access to adequate education and interventions. Their actions, I think, are reflective not only of the parenting, but also of a system that may be failing us. If we don't have adequate help and support, like you said, collectively, a community comes together and helps parent. It's not just the people in the household. Children are at school the majority of their time, so what does our educational system look like? When they're out after school, what are they doing? What resources are available to them? And then are they adequately getting food and shelter, clothing, love, and not being exposed to violence, abuse, and neglect? So it can't just be on the parents, it's on all of us as a community.
Got it. We want to thank you both for joining us here on The Factor.